Adam Field, it's great to see you. Thanks for joining me today. A lot of buzz, obviously, around artificial intelligence, in particular Gen AI. How does one separate out the buzz from the actual productivity gains that agencies are seeing from using artificial intelligence for mission delivery?
Yeah, it's tough because I think we're at this point in the hype cycle where it started to slow just a little bit. Maybe 9 months ago, we were at that hype cycle, and that's all anyone talked about. Now we're starting to come down to reality a little bit, where organizations and agencies are realizing the cost involved, the value that it can drive inside of an organization, and it comes down now to like really measuring it and how do we measure it. And I think that's honestly one of the biggest challenges. And I'll give you a personal example. I wrote code for the early part of my career. Haven't written a good line of code in 20 years. ChatGPT comes along, and I started building some of the first Tungsten Automation prototypes where we were going to use Gen AI. I did it during meetings.
We won't tell anybody.
We won't tell,
about it.
But it ended up being good features in the product, so it was okay. How do I measure that productivity gain? How do I measure the work that I was able to do while I was doing other things because of the help of Gen AI? And I think that's the real challenge that agencies are having right now is there's a cost to it. What's the benefit? I think what we'll just see over time is we just rolled out something in our product where instead of doing any development whatsoever, you build by using natural language, and it's just going to be the default. It's just how we operate with every bit of software, either your voice or natural language, and we won't even question it. It's just part of the product.
Generative AI in particular has kind of big-footed, my sense is, intelligent automation. That's something that the government was really involved with in using for a long time. Started with RPA, evolved into intelligent automation. Then AI came along and kind of sucked all the oxygen out of the room. What's your sense of how people are connecting those two concepts now and using them in tandem?
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting question, and here's why. I'm starting to see things come back again that I thought were a commodity. So let's take RPA, right?
Yep.
RPA had become generally a commodity, and a lot of RPA companies had moved beyond it and even us, we would only sell it with our intelligent automation platform. RPA right now is playing a huge role in Gen AI because these large language models are only valuable if you add your data to it. They're a commodity. In 24 months, they've hit commodity status. The prices have gone through the floor. Now, can you argue that OpenAI is coming out with new models that do new things? Sure. But the prices continue to go down. So it's the data that you augment it with, which is really important. And RPA plays a role in pulling all that data together. We're in a space called intelligent document processing. People were starting to argue that a lot of those technologies had hit commodity status. All of a sudden, Gen AI comes along, and we get together. I remember calling one of my product managers from the car one day and said, this might actually give a rebirth to how you do intelligent document processing. And it has. And we just showed it a few minutes ago at this conference we're at, where using natural language, I just tell the machine what it is I want out of these documents, and it goes and figures out the rest. Completely changed the game.
Yeah. Give me some examples of how you're seeing agencies really use this stuff to deliver on mission.
Well, I'll continue on the example I was just giving. You think about all the states and jurisdictions, right, in this country, and then all the towns, cities and towns inside of those states. You've got documents that you might think are standard, but there end up being hundreds of permutations of them. So as an agency, if you need to consume all of that, it was very laborious before. Now, you might rewind 30 years, and that was even more challenging, and you'd say what we had a couple of years ago was hugely revolutionary. It was, but now Gen AI comes along. What I no longer have to do is actually say, I've got a new variant, let me train it. Let me go in and have a developer say, well, the state of Rhode Island's a little bit different than the state of Massachusetts form, so now I've got to create a model. Now I've got to spend weeks training that model. I do it a few times. Again, natural language, here's what I need off this document, and the computer vision capabilities are so smart that it just figures it out. It saves like up to 80%, reduces up to 80% the amount of time it takes to build these extraction models. That's just going to make these agencies more efficient and adaptable to change.
A worry among the workforce in a lot of these governmental organizations is that the AI is going to replace me.
Sure.
And both vendors and the government agencies are using terms like sidekick and co-pilot and those kinds of things to try to help folks understand this is a tool to help augment your work, not to replace you. What have you seen be the most effective strategies that organizations are doing to be able to get that message across?
Yeah, well, I do think it's truly about that. In fact, there's some reports that I was looking at. It was interesting. I gave a presentation recently where I said, I'm going to give you some quotes from recent articles that I've read. And it was about job loss because of technology and replacing workers. And then I hit the next button, and it was headlines from articles written in 1983 about the rise of the personal computer.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the data, the amount of adults working in the US since that time has gone up, not gone down. So the percentage of adults working, now they're working in different jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but that's not always going to resonate with people. It resonates with people like me who study this stuff and look at these charts. The way I think you encourage the use of it is to, you've got to explain it, but you put it in front of them and give them examples about how they're not going to do the stuff anymore that you never hired them to do in the first place. That mundane rote work, having to spin the 6 different systems when they promised, every one of those 6 vendors promised it was going to make their lives easier, and now they just want to delete every one of them. You put that assistant on the side and they see, oh, okay, that's giving me the data now, but I'm still making the decision.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still dealing with the customer. I'm still the empathetic human being. I'm still creating the ideas. Now I don't have to deal with all the stuff that I should have never had to deal with in the first place. And until people experience that, they will question it. Sure, and I don't blame them.
Is it possible to predict what this space looks like in a year, 5 years, 10 years? Or is there just too much runway here?
I think there's too much runway. I mean, 5, 10 years, who knows? A year, I think what we'll start seeing in a year, 2024, I've been saying was more the year where we dipped our toe in the water. Organizations and agencies dipped their toe in the water and probably just rolled it out internally. Let's do some internal pilots. We're not going to put this externally. We're not going to automate anything. We're going to keep humans in the loop to look at the results. 25, I think you start seeing projects get funded a little bit more based on the backs of those 24 pilots, and maybe turn it around to a citizen, in a very closed, trusted pilot of just maybe certain elements of the citizenry to try using it. And then in the future outlying years, when we understand costs a little bit more, then I think we can begin to expand the use. But at least we're protected if, we limit the amount of rollout. We have to deal with this every day. I come up with cool ideas, and then my organization says, what's it going to cost? I say, well, I'm not sure yet. We got to figure that out.
Final thought,
Yeah.
You get one sentence to wrap.
All right.
What do you see as the future of driving efficiency with intelligent automation across government?
I actually think it's not just efficiency, but I say proficiency. So that's my answer. I think this technology makes people more proficient in their lives and in their jobs.
It's great to have you here. Thanks for joining me
It's my
today.
pleasure. Thank you so much.